Welcome to a quick demonstration of how EOR may be of benefit to your company to assist it to become audit ready, increase compliance within your company, and hopefully to standardise the health and safety process, meaning, for example, that if your person in charge of health and safety is absent from a period of time, hopefully someone can slip into their role fairly easily and find all the documentation that they require. This demo is going to be based around a dry lining company, and the documents within it have been filled out as an example. So if you see any documents on screen, don't use them as gospel, as they've only been filled in quickly for demonstration purposes. So let's crack straight on, and we will firstly start by looking at the personnel section of the software and how you can add in your employees and self-employed individuals. So just click on the personnel tab. We'll drag this over here so you can see it easily. Click on add to add a new employee and enter their details. We'll use an example name here, the premises that they're linked to, their telephone number, their work phone number, their email address, employment type, their job title, and we'll put this person in as a dry liner. And if you want them to have access to this system, you would give them a privilege set so that they can get into EOR and only access areas of EOR that you want them to. But for the sake of this demonstration, we shall leave that blank. We can also link them to a training folder in, for example, your Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive, but we won't use that during this demonstration. That's for another video. If we want to add a picture of the person, which will appear on any documentation that you produce and reports, we can simply drag and drop a photo of that person into the software. And once we've done that, the person is set up. We can then go on to add this person's qualifications. And as we can see, quite straightforward, add qualification. We'll have a look at what qualifications we need to add here. And we shall start by adding this person's CSCS card. So if we click on CSCS there, that fills in the title. We can drag a copy of the CSCS card onto there. If we had a singular back copy, we could drop that into this right hand side area, and we want to add in the sub qualification of the CSCS card. So we click on add sub qualification, and we can see there in the Dropbox list this person as a dry liner, so we fill that in. The date that the CSCS card was issued, so we'll do that as the 1st of January this year, and the CSCS card is valid for 5 years. It automatically calculates the expiry date for that CSCS card. Click on done to go backwards, and that's that qualification filled in. We'll add one more qualification, and this one will be the PASMA qualification. Click on add, select PASMA from the drop down list, drag a copy of the certificate into the relevant holder, and we'll add the sub qualification as Tower Low Level. The date it was issued, again we'll add a random date, and again it's valid for 5 years, and it automatically calculates the expiry date for you. Click on done. We'll go all the way back to the main menu. Here we have a list of the employees. If we want to print their qualification reports, we can select the people who we want to print the reports for, and we can click on print there, and that will save the qualification reports onto our desktop, as we can see here. Let's have a look at John Smith's. These are in PDF format here, so we can send them off to the principal contractors. We'll now go all the way back to the main menu. Next thing to look at is our personnel qualification list. This is all of the qualifications in the company, and we've only got a few in so far, but we can organise them either in days until expiry, which will have obviously the qualifications that are nearest to renewal at the top of the list, or we can organise them alphabetically. We can also use the search bar to bring up all of the people with, for example, an asbestos awareness qualification. These numbers change colour depending on how many days there are left until expiry. If it was overdue, it would display a red number. We will go on to the Assets tab next. This is where you store everything that's owned by the company. We can have a look at a drill, for example, and that drill has a pat test record linked to it. Let's add one of our assets, and let's add it as a power tool because we're going to add a mixer. Let's assign it to a premises. Let's assign the person that's looking after that mixer. So we'll give that to John. And if we wanted to, we could put it, for example, into a van or into a toolbox, but we won't do that now. We can fill in its serial number. We can fill in its manufacturer, fill in its model, its weight. We can also give it a hand-arm vibration rating and a noise rating as well. And you can see that the software automatically calculates the number of minutes until you reach the exposure action value and the limit value, which is all info that you can then provide to the employees. We'll add a picture for this asset, and we'll also add the expirables that relate to it. So this is the power tool, and we will want to track its pat testing. It's a construction-based tool. It should be pat tested every 3 months. So we'll link a 3-monthly pat test to it. At the bottom of the screen here, we have all of the expirables linked to all of our assets, and they would be organized in date of expiry. So if we wanted to have a look at just the MOTs, we can type in MOT and it will bring up the MOTs for the vehicles. Our van MOT isn't yet logged into the system, so we haven't got a date for it. And we'll have a look at these expirables slightly later in a demonstration. It's also worth mentioning that the system can be used to track the location of assets, and your guys on site can use their mobile phones to drop a pin to show exactly where that power tool is. Back on the main menu here, we'll have a look at risk assessments. Click on risk assessments, and this brings up a list of all of your generic risk assessments that relate to your company. We won't go into much detail here because there is another video on how to produce a risk assessment. But if we wanted to have a look at the dry lining risk assessment as the example, we could click on that there, and you can see all the hazards relating to dry lining are identified. Sequence of operations next, and sequence of operations or operating procedures are how you do your tasks safely. These are used elsewhere in the software. When you're producing site-specific method statements, we can reference back to these to allow you to produce the method statements in lightning speed. Let's have a look at the plasterboarding one. And there it is with all of the steps to ensure that you erect the plasterboard safely and correctly. Again, we'll have a look at these slightly later when we produce a site-specific RAMS. COSHH assessments, much the same as risk assessments. All of the substances used by your company, you can produce the COSHH assessments quickly and easily within the software, and we won't go into that in much detail because it is relatively self-explanatory, but it does save a lot of fiddling about if you're currently using Excel or Word to produce your COSHH assessments. You'll also notice that for all of these documents, they're all organised in date of expiry. So again, it provides you with a reminder as to when you need to review these docs. Files and folders. This section will link into your company Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Drive, and it allows you to keep track again of the review dates for your documents. So if we come into the policies folder here, we can use this green button to open your policies folder, and we've got the examples there of your health and safety policy and your whistleblowing stored inside it. Again, this will help you maintain an audit-ready state in the company because you always know what documents require reviewing and when. So when you are audited, you will know, for example, that your health and safety policy is in date. Expirables. These are items that link back to your assets that we looked at earlier. And let's have a go at adding a PAT test record. If you've just recently had PAT testing carried out, we can come in here. We can open up your Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Drive where you're storing your PAT test files by clicking on the green button. Or you can add the PAT test report into here. That's it stored. And then we can link the tools that were PAT tested to the PAT test record to update the date that their expiry of PAT testing occurs. So let's imagine the PAT testing occurred on the 1st of February. Let's now link the PAT test record to those tools, and we shall do it by personnel guardian. So John had all of his tools PAT tested on the 1st of February. We click on his name, we can see the tools that are assigned to him, and we can add those to the PAT test record. Those tools now have their PAT test expiry updated to 3 months' time. We will go back to the assets folder so that you can now see that the PAT testing has been updated for those two tools. Back to Expirables, and we can use exactly the same principle to log a fire evacuation drill at our head office. So the fire evacuation drill, again, for example, took place on the 2nd of February. Let's put the fire evacuation drill into the Dropbox. Dragging and dropping it just here. Upload it. That's the register stored. Now let's update our fire evacuation drill so we know that in 6 months' time we need to carry out another one. Close our Dropbox, and now we will have a look at our linked companies. This would be where you would store your principal contractors, for example, and here we've got one for Barrett's Homes with their address and any site managers that you deal with. If we are asked by Barrett's Homes to produce a site-specific risk assessment and method statement, we can do that from within the software by clicking on Projects, and we'll add an example project here. So fill in your premises that's managing the project, fill in the project manager, fill in the person on site who is in charge for your company, and fill in the lead company along with their site manager, the date that the project is starting and the date that the project is ending, and a brief description of the project. Once we have added the description of the project, we can add an address for that project. And a project phone number if it has one. Let's add a title for the project. And now let's get to adding our method statement. You can add multiple method statements to one project. This one is going to be an example method statement for phase 1. Our premises that's managing the project, our method statement manager, the person on site who's in charge of the works for our team, the lead company, and the lead company's site manager. Let's go through our list and select all of our generic risk assessments which might be relevant to the project. And I'm not going to add all of them here, just add a few as an example. There they are, linked to the project. If we need to view them, we can click on this blue button here and that will go directly to the risk assessment. We now want to add our COSHH assessments in exactly the same way. There they are. If we wanted to view them, we could click on the blue folders to view them. We could equally produce a project-specific risk assessment. Date it was reviewed. Who's possibly at harm. The PPE that we need to wear. I'm not going to add it all here. And we can use our template hazards from our library to add in the risks. That's our project-specific risk assessment produced, and we can also add in any arrangements relating to the project. So, for example, we could add in delivery arrangements and arrangements relating to the daily start and end time. Once we've selected them, we can click on the blue Edit tab, which will enter in some text for us, and we can then modify this text as much or as little as we like. Let's add the start and finish time. And let's fill in the date that our works on site will start and the end date for our works. We can also assign the assets that will be taken to site. We're going to have a tower scaffold, one of our vans will be there, and our drill and mixer will be there. You can see that it gives the HAV ratings with the exposure times and the noise ratings for the tools. We're now ready to add the method statement for the project, and we will make this slightly larger for you. Let's add the method statement using our templates, which is the fastest way. First thing we need to do is enter the site. We've already got our generic paragraph there. You can modify that as you wish. That's how we're going to enter the site safely, and this is how we're going to carry out the plasterboarding. So we can look through all of our steps. If one of them isn't relevant, we can unhighlight them so they're not included in the project. These are all relevant because we're plasterboarding, and this is how we plasterboard. So we add them and they are automatically populated into the project. If we wanted to change one of these steps, we can click on the edit button and we can change it as we so wish. That's our method statement produced. We're now ready to print the method statement. So we click on here and it will save it all to our desktop for us. And here it is on our desktop, method statement for phase 1. Within it, we've got our asset reports. Let's have a look at this one for a drill. We have its pat test record ready to send off to the principal contractor so they can see it. We have its HAV ratings and we have its noise rating as well, along with the exposure limits. So the team on site know how long that they can use that tool for. And we have the other ones here as well. And also our principal contractor could log in to our Dropbox and view our online records as well if he wanted to. We have the COSHH assessments that we assigned to the project. We have the risk assessments that we assigned to the project. And most importantly, we have the method statement as to how we're going to carry out that project safely. And that's it. There are a lot more features to come and we're forever evolving the software, but hopefully that gives you an idea of what the software can do and how it can save you time, increase your compliance and make you audit ready. Thank you very much.